Okay, you're not audible.
Hello, can you hear me?
Okay,
Yeah.
you're not audible.
Yeah, better. Hello.
I am able to hear you.
Yeah. Ranu sir, everyone else is able to hear.
Okay, am
I'll
I
start.
audible?
Yes,
Yeah,
you
it's
are.
better. Yes, better.
Okay.
Okay, I'll admit everyone and let's start off.
Okay, thanks.
Good morning, everyone. Once again, on a on a Saturday morning, and thank you everyone for being audience to us. Keep sharing the topics of your interest, and we will definitely try to ensure that we cover up of every topics. A topic for the day, which we are looking at, is where the placement seasons have started across the colleges and across the corporates. There's a lot of momentum around it, and a lot of excitement and a lot of anxiety across the levels. The zeal to hire fresh from the campuses. There's an anxiety around the day zero, the day one. The colleges to visit, the exhaustive travels, the issues for HR to get the schedules from the businesses for campus placements, the repetitive pre-placement presentations, the competition to close the candidates for your corporates before the other corporates make a competitive offer and make them a selected candidate for you. A lot of action in a very short window, and the HR team knows the kind of effort gone behind the entire thing to get the right student and the right college. The zeal for the fresh blood, the fresh energy, candidates willing and waiting for venturing into the corporate innings and willing to learn and get them started. The tech savvy next generation, which everybody is looking out for. Who knows? The next big idea can come from one of them. A lot of effort actually goes behind making the campus placements happen. A dedicated team around the corporates works to get the right talent into the organization. Expectations from all the stakeholders, right from the business to the HR to the senior management and the top management, including the board, is quite high. And that creates a lot of pressure in terms of managing various stakeholder expectations. Our topic for the day, what corporate looks at while hiring from the campuses, tries covering various aspects and expectations of various stakeholders. Without wasting much time, I would like to invite our eminent speakers who will basically enlighten on us this topic and take us through what are the expectations that the corporates have. Before that, I'll just introduce my team. I'm sure you would know me. I'm Ranu Parwal from Acura Solutions and from Schools Connect. Skills Connect is our digital platform, which has been having more than 6,000 colleges from all over the country and covers 400 plus cities all over India. We've been helping companies to facilitate hyperlocal hiring with high efficiency. We save a lot of cost and a lot of hassles for the corporates by digitizing the entire processes. We've been helping a lot of large corporates, large banks, and various IT firms across the domain in campus hirings now. I have Vicky Jain from Unova HRMS. He powers the platform Unova powers more than 6.5 lakh employees life cycle across the corporate world. And they have recently won the award from Frost & Sullivan. Here's Vicky Jain. Hi, Vicky.
Thanks, Ranu. Very good morning, everyone.
I've got Sunil Kabra with me from Ace Human Capital, our contractual staffing arm, which also caters to the gig economy part of the business. Sunil's company Ace Human Capital, along with our robust tech platform, empowers the company on the blue collar assignments as well. And we have a huge workforce across various geographies. Now, I would like to also introduce our speakers, Shourya Chakravarty. 25 years of experience in managing very, very large organizations, the organizations with the size of more than thousands of people. He's been working earlier with Aptech. He's been working with First Source, HSBC, GE, and is currently working with one of the largest software quality testing companies in the world, Quality Kiosk. He's the Chief Human Resource Officer at Quality Kiosk. He's a strategy architect and has been driving strategic initiatives related to restructuring of the organizations, organization acquisitions for realization of business objectives. I would like to welcome Shourya and introduce him to the panel, to the audience. Shourya. Good morning, Shourya. Our next speaker is Patanjali Alaiya, an engineer and an MBA from XLRI. He's got around 13 years of work experience. He's worked for more than 5 years with Godrej and around 8.5 years with Accenture in various domains in HR. He's also worked on the tech side at Accenture, apart from managing certain key verticals for Accenture. He is now leading the HR segment or the HR space for the new generation business of one of the largest groups of the country, JSW. The platform, the company where he heads where he's heading as an HR head is JSW1, the online ecosystem for the building materials. Patanjali, good morning.
Thanks, Ranu.
And
Happy
pleasure
to
to
be
have you on the
associated.
platform.
Thank you. Thanks for calling me. Pleasure to be here.
Patanjali, we are discussing, without wasting much time, and the audience is now with us, we would like to understand few things from Patanjali and Shourya on various aspects around the corporate, the campus hiring piece. The first question, the corporate branding at various campuses. Corporate branding at various campuses and its relevance. What do the corporates do from a corporate branding perspective? Over to you, Shourya, if you can help me.
Sure, thanks, Ranu. Corporate branding at campuses, I would say it's not anymore a one-off event that when you need people to join you, you connect with the campuses. This is more in the form of an engagement and a relationship building, which should happen over the years. And from a corporate perspective, let me say there should be some campuses where you build a relationship and you hire the cream talent you're looking for. There would be some campuses where you can go and offhand pick the talent. Now, just like within an organization, we talk of belongingness, which today takes the form of relatedness. Within a corporate and between a corporate and a campus, a school, a college, a B school, an engineering college or whatever, it is that connect which is very, very important. It's not just about the corporate. So let me tell you, the times have changed. The employers are no more the people in demand. It's the people who are in demand, and the employers have to adjust to the people requirements.
I'm sorry, I'm not. I'll just rejoin in a second. I think I'm facing some voice issue. Just give me a second.
Meanwhile, Shourya, you may, if you want to continue, please go ahead.
Sure. So what I was saying is that it's important to understand that even the campus corporate relationship has changed now. It is no more the previous relationship which used to exist. It's not that, the placement season connect. It has to be a complete year-long or even more connect, and not just with the intent for hiring people, but how you can contribute to each other's overall business development, overall goal achievement. That is something which takes it to the next level, according to me.
Okay, I missed a few points though, but I'll request Patanjali if you can just share your thoughts as well. Thanks, Shourya.
Sure. Thank you. And I mean, taking over from what Shourya said. So I like 2 points which are very apt. One is it's not just a one-time activity. It's now stretched beyond that. It becomes a full-fledged year-round activity. Secondly, gone are the days when the company that used to brand or the corporate that used to brand. Now it's a both-way street. Okay. But before that, I just wanted to throw light on why do we need branding, or what is the need of branding in the first place, and what is an ideal way? Why should a corporate brand? Why should a college brand? So branding currently or ideally it should be a place which gives an exposure to both. A place where it gives opportunity for the students to meet the corporates, a corporate to understand the students. Students these days also want to understand what corporate culture is. So a branding should also aim to ensure that they get that relevant exposure to what an organization is doing, what its culture is. Also, it's successful when it becomes a win-win for them. And just what Shourya said, that it's not just for the corporate, it's for the others also, but therefore it has to be a win-win for both when both are able to brand itself, and it cannot be a lopsided effect. And also at the same time, what are the quick options? I was just reflecting on what are the some options which make it very successful. And this is which I have seen done in my different roles. Some of the things like you have a brand ambassador, a partner level person, a senior MD level person who is a brand ambassador to a college. That person can be an alumni of the college. So person understands both sides of the world, is able to balance those. That can be one. You can have just immediate alums who are the campus people as well as in the corporate, and they are able to connect to the generation. So that is an instant hit in branding. This also gives an opportunity for students to interact with their senior alums. So summarizing net, what I feel is corporate branding at campus is where college should be able to up their curriculum and make students more industry ready through that. Also at the same time, for corporate, this is a right branding which gives them an opportunity to understand the changing dynamics of the workforce. And that is where the branding is shifting. That is where the branding will be successful. Back to you, Ram.
Okay. Point taken. When you're talking about corporate branding as one of the aspects of one of the challenges, there are multiple challenges that comes around in the campus hirings. And I want to understand what are the key challenges that we face, Patanjali, and how do we view the future of campus hiring is going to be?
Sure. So see, challenges wise, and we would have all seen as part of being students or being placement officers or being part of the corporate. One thing which you would all have seen, the day 0, day -1, day 1, day 2, the rush to get the talent, the rush to grab the best of the talents.
That's right.
Definitely a challenge, but also at the same time, the challenge more is how do you judge the right candidate? You just have 1 hour, 2 hour series of interviews. So how do we judge the right candidate? And a larger question to that is, do you need a day -1 slot to get the best candidate? So right now there is no mechanism which is able to marry both of those. What I want versus what a student wants. Is it -1 only will give me the best person? Answer is probably no. Second problem which I see these days is many a times the transparency is big issue. More prominent in the B schools, lesser prominent. Who is coming in day 0? Why person is coming in day 0? So while there is ethics on one side being taught, but sometimes that gets a slip away. Why do we do that?
Okay.
So that is how do we manage that? If I were a college, I would want to be more transparent to the corporates, because that is what the corporate also expects. Another very important thing, okay, and this I'll switch gear from a student standpoint. For a student, it's the pressure to perform their best in those 30 minutes. So if I see a key challenge is for the student also, that I have performed for 2 years, I have given my interest test, or I have done my 10th, 12th best of the best. I get into a college, but those 15 minutes, those 30 minutes will judge me that whether I'm fit for ABC company or not. So that continues to be a key challenge. So how do you get the right and the rush? Fastest finger first is not always applicable. So that a few points which I think on.
I'll just have one point which I just want to understand. You specifically mentioned on transparency inside the colleges. Just a bit of elaboration. What I understand is sometimes college says, hey, listen, this organization is coming just to attract the other organization. Is this what you mean by transparency? Just if you can elaborate that.
Yeah. So maybe see there are maybe two points on those. One is uh, when do your placement season starts? Companies currently, and it's more prominent in these schools. When does your day zero start? When does your day one start? When does your day two start? Okay.
Yeah.
So many a times it's that ambiguous thing. The college also wants to ensure that all the corporates get a premium seat. They feel the part of privileged customer, and all the corporate also at the same time wants to ensure that I get the first slot. So how do you ensure that it's transparent as well as it's a mature decision? The whole model has to mature. It can't be that one side says I'm being transparent, other says that okay, then I'm not ready to come.
Okay. Shourya, I am sure the kind of workforce that you deploy, a large chunk is with freshers or with 0 to 2 years kind of exposure. For you, what are the challenges at the campus hirings? And how do you see the future of campus hiring is going to be?
So Ranu, let me tell you, the future of campus hirings is something which can't be predicted today. Just like the future of work has been changing very fast. What we knew 2 years ago doesn't exist today. The same way the campuses have also evolved, right? And we corporates also need to evolve for that. And I'm speaking in a generic way, not for any particular organization. What do they need to do and all of that. So the key thing, as Patanjali rightly articulated, you have to ensure transparency. And transparency is both ways. And also many of the corporates have been to campuses before. So what is important for campuses also is to keep in touch with their alums. And what is the impact which the alums of those campuses have made in their respective organizations? That is also a very, very important factor in whether the corporate goes back to that particular campus or not. The decision making at the company level also matters. I remember in one of my earlier organizations, there was a particular campus from which the people weren't up to the mark in terms of the attitude. So the organization took a call that, okay, we are not going to go there anymore. So this is, one example of how decisions at the corporate level also get affected.
Okay. I think we have a lot of students as well who've joined us, and I'm sure for them it's a very important message that they understand that they are the brand ambassadors for their juniors and for their colleges too. From Shourya, from you and Patanjali both, and more with Shourya as the first thing, when we're talking about students, we're talking about the millennials who are looking into the company. For these millennials or for the students who are ready to get into the corporate world, is it the brand visibility, the role, or the compensation, or a balance of all the three? What do you think are the important parameters, and how do you as a go ahead on the campus placements or from hiring from the campuses? Sure.
So Ranu, I'll tell you, different people have different aspects they look at. Like, today, if you look at from a corporate perspective in general, any corporate would look at the attitude and the ability to adjust to ambiguity, because the future is all about ambiguity. We don't know what is going to happen. So that is something which anybody would look at. From a campus perspective, if I were to look, it's not about the generation and all that. People today look at the relatedness. And by relatedness, I mean belongingness and autonomy. See, there was a time when work from home was a very big, attracting factor, that we provide work from home. Today, it's the accepted norm, right? Hybrid working is here to stay, at least, for some time in the foreseeable future. So what people look for is relatedness. Does that organization give me the space, freedom, autonomy to perform? And while we may say as a fresher, what autonomy do they need? Well, some of them are more mature than many of us. I mean, they make judgment calls much better than us. I can see Patanjali is smiling, but yes, that's a fact. And so it is no more a one-way game. It's a two-way game now. Just like we would want to hire people to fulfill our needs, they would also have aspirations. So in a nutshell, as a corporate, how much are we conscious of the aspirations of the people we are going to engage with the workforce? It's not about recruiting, it's not about hiring anymore. It's about engaging people. And that's where somewhere I believe in India, we sometimes, go in divergent ways. We don't engage. We just pick them up and say, this is the job profile. This is what you have to do. And da, 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 1, 2, 3, 4, finish, done. It doesn't work that way. People today, see, the trigger when a person leaves is not the salary. The trigger is always something else. Of course, when you always look out for a job, you will get a salary hike. That's a given. But very few of the time are people leaving only for salary. So it's the relatedness quotient which matters more today. And that's my take on it. Yes, Ranu.
Oh, very important point. Engaging people. We are into hirings today. When we look at some roles which are emerging more towards social media, more towards digital piece, earlier, even at vice president, the age bracket was around 40, 42. Today, people talk and they say, no, I need somebody who started their innings on social media at around 18, 20. And today, 25, 28, they have that maturity to head the social media piece. They talk about, and they say that, no, I don't need, even 35 is overaged for certain roles for them.
Right.
Engaging people is a very important point, Shourya, that you talking about. And uh, Patanjali, do you have a view? I'm talking to you with the new generation business and the kind of businesses that you at Accenture or other organizations. If you can just throw some light here.
Yeah. And see, I agree to what even Shaurya has mentioned. And if we see the genesis of why is this happening, there's this generation X, which had a different target. X to Y, Y to Z, Z to millennials. Our parents, for millennials, they'll still have their parents who would have struggled, but right now they would want their kids to ensure that they live in comfort. So because of that, what is coming is millennials currently do not have to strive to ensure that they are not the sole bread earners of family. So what happens in turn, therefore, is you definitely rise up in the Maslow's hierarchy as you go, and the focus shifts that, okay, now how do I get that autonomy is what Shourya was saying, or how do I get what I want to do? And therefore, even if you see your attrition, or for earlier generations, it was very easy for people to stick onto a job for 20, 25, 30 years. Now people switch with a drop of hat. Why? Just I want to try something else. So you have to understand the millennials, and therefore, if this is what they want, which is right for them, so it is no more the compensation that will attract. It is no more the brand that will attract, because brands like Facebook, like Google's, like Netflix of the world get created within 3, 4, 5 years. You have the ages of the unicorns and startups. So they understand that if this is an organization, if I work here, I get that autonomy, I get to do end-to-end things, and 5 years this will be a unicorn. So you no more have that brand to pull. People are ready to work in a relatively smaller brand also. So in this case, therefore, a hybrid system only is the best option. And therefore, how do you attract the talent? How do you ensure that you're able to garner that balance? So what I feel is corporate should look at 3, 4 elements. One is you identify your talent well in advance. Then, as Shourya said, you engage them. You engage, and then after engage is then you evaluate them, and then you hire them. So if you follow this journey, then you get the right talent. The right talent also gets you. So this way becomes a win-win for the millennial as well as for the company.
Okay. One question to you, Patanjali, when you're talking about specifically from what you're looking out for, when we go to the campuses, you receive bunch of applications, and sometimes it's very difficult from screening the first set of people. So in that case, what are the kind of innovative methods that we are looking out for faster screening process in order to get the right people? The topics that what we're talking about is multiple parameters that are coming out. It's not just the academics that are important. How do you guys look
Right.
at the overall screening process and how you fasten the entire thing?
Perfect. Perfect. So one norm that generally we fall into is is take a dump in Excel, filter by percentages, 10th, 12th, graduation, post graduation, and you
Yeah.
shortlist. Yeah, this is a
Right.
very common trap,
Very common thing.
very
Yeah.
easy to get into.
Yeah.
But the question, rather a bigger question is, and which I'll reflect back, do you really need that? If you are a startup, do you need a topper or do you need an entrepreneur? If you are a sales team, do you need someone who is able to speak and sell, or do you need someone who is able to think? So for that, the first very essential element is do not go by that thumb rule percentage, just filter on those. What are some of the tricks that might help is, one is always start early. What do I mean by start early? While this is a laborious thing, but why do we want to wait till the D-Day? You have the whole year. You start engaging and identifying your key talents. You start identifying your campus that, okay, these are the people that I would want to, this is my skill set that I want to look at. So instead of that last moment rush to then screening it faster, you first start early, get that early movers advantage. Then you also have to be more creative around. And what I mean by creative is first is decide what you want. If that's the one, if you're a startup, you might need ABC. If you're a setup company, you need someone who has good sustenance things. And basis then you identify a parameter that, okay, if suppose I am a startup, and reflecting back to startup because currently I'm working there, is I would want someone who is able to multitask. I would want someone who is able to sketch. If that is my parameter, how do I judge? How do I get people? Then person who has done maximum projects, held maximum positions, come from different industries, and then select. So there's not a right one size fit all answer for all. Okay, but very two essential things which I feel. One is start early. Second, equally important, there is no shortcut to hard work. Okay, so if you want the right candidate, then it's worth spending that extra time to get the right candidate rather than to just filter, screen, and then eliminate.
Okay. I think important point for the students as well, what you're making, Patanjali, which is apart from the academics, you also mentioned about the number of projects that the students takes up, which gives them a whole, all-round exposure, which is very important. I definitely look
Exactly.
we do a lot of campus hirings, and I'm telling you, I've seen students still, not taking projects seriously and making it a cut copy paste.
But they don't interview. That becomes
Parameter where your maturity is reflected. It's not about the content, but it's also talks about your maturity. So, which is very important point that you made.
Exactly.
And
I mean,
again,
how
important
do you
thing.
differentiate some?
Yeah, you're saying something, Shourya. Patanjali.
Yeah. So I
please.
said, how do you differentiate a person getting 81 and 82 and 83 and 84? Someone gets into a B school.
Right.
That is the screening the person would have done. The differentiating factor is what the personality is, what the additional thing that the person has done.
Point taken. In fact, for some startups, which you said, I'm sure established players or large organizations still have a dedicated campus process. Startups need it now. At that point in time, they don't have the, they may not look at those various parameters, and nor can they start early. They can't have a process which can start at the start of the year. So when they're going, I'm telling you, there are people where you mentioned about do you need a topper or an entrepreneur? Startups typically look at people who are more not the toppers of the campuses, but looking at people who've got multiple projects which they've been doing, and they try to dive into those projects more rather than looking at academics as one of the parameters. Important point. Shourya, what is your view on this particular thing? Faster screening processes and innovative methods that you talk about at the company level.
So, Patanjali has made some very interesting points, and I would like to add on to that. Today, when we engage, say, students,
Right.
they come in for, 1 month or 2 months for a summer internship or winter internship or whatever is that. And this is maybe a different thought, slightly divergent or contrarian. Why can't these schools have, a tie-up where, say, weekly a certain number of hours, could they be associated with a company, with an organization to work on projects or, regular aspects? Why only? Because that 1 or 2 months doesn't give any exposure to the student, doesn't help the companies in any way other than, visual branding or whatever it is. That real engagement doesn't happen. So I think the entire curriculum needs to have a relook. The engagement needs to start from there itself. That, what is it? And probably then this concept of screening will undergo a change. The other aspect, which Patanjali also mentioned about the percentages, that how do you differentiate? Now, see, in the startup ecosystem, they are not looking at the toppers necessarily. They are looking for people who have who are go-getters. They're looking at people who have the passion, to get things done, and not just. So let me put it. The quality which is most important. If I were to today hire people, I would look at: are you a problem solver, or are you a crybaby? It's very easy. Everybody knows what is the problem. You have a solution, 1, 2, 3, right, wrong, don't debate that. Offer the solutions, it will be debated and it will be sorted. So that is some of the things which we will have to look at. And these kind of skills can be developed when there is a consistent engagement over the duration of the entire course, be it a 2-year MBA or a 4-year engineering or whatever it is. That's my take on it, Ranu.
Point taken. Point taken. I think we had some issues with our YouTube video, which is now live, and it's gone. I think a lot of college students and campuses were waiting outside. It just got sorted out. So I just wanted to can join us, and we'll also put the recording live onto the platform. I'm sure. My apologies that we missed out. There was a technical glitch we couldn't sort out on. But Shourya, I think you made important points when you're talking about, relook at the curriculum and maybe look at a curriculum where you have a weekly projects which colleges can deliver or some kind of association. A very important point. A few companies, I'm telling you, are really doing or talking about it. Specifically when we are at Skills Connect, looking at certain engagements with various corporates now, we realize there is a different model and a different thought process as well at the HR level, where they're looking at a different level of engagements. Next question, or rather, I just wanted to understand when you're talking about this. You're talking about corporates and campuses working in tandem and trying to, you're talking about revamping the way of, writing the academics or the curriculums. What is the way where you can think that synergies can be brought between the corporates and the colleges to bridge the gap in what industry looks at?
So firstly is to understand that we are complementary to each other.
Okay.
We both need each other. It's not that campuses need us. You will see many of these campuses host these conclaves, and people from the corporates like us, we love to go there and lecture and come back. How many times do corporates invite people from the campuses for the engagement? It has to be both ways. Just because,
Okay.
so that's what I'm saying. The entire concept has to be it has to be turned on its head and looked like that. Right. I mean, the engagement again has to be in such a way that, so today, let me put it, if a company hires some, or not today, let me go back a couple of years, a couple of decades back. When I was graduating, one of the favorite projects would be an HRD climate survey, right? Virtually every third person would do that. I mean, what would a corporate gain out of that if you don't implement those? Today, students want to work on live projects where they can see their suggestions, their proposals being implemented by the corporates. And there are many corporates who actually engage in such a way. May not be in a very open way, but many of them do it because those students actually help companies solve their peculiar problems and move forward on the path of progress.
Important point.
I think even when we're talking about this, I think
COVID times, or you talk about various dilapidated bridges in India or in Mumbai. IIT Mumbai was roped in, and so was the case when we were talking about COVID. I think the important education institutes or research institutions were definitely roped in, and very innovative solutions, including the ventilators which were created by certain IITs, were very different and to meet the Indian requirements. You have a point. I still remember during our campus
wanting to hit the market and just
the launch, we were in the wholesale markets to just get a feeler. It was just 5 days before the launch, and we were there in the markets taking up that entire thing. And that today that product is one of the most successful products with a good brand extension. Yeah, Patanjali, over to you. And wanted to understand, I'm sure you're talking about the new generation business which you guys are in. Corporates and campuses can work in synergies.
Sure. Are you able to hear me? I guess there's some lag.
Yeah, I can.
Okay, perfect. Okay, excellent. So extending to what Shourya had mentioned, okay, I completely agree that it has to be a live project. Gone are those days when we used to have just academic projects. Student also these days want to have live projects. Corporate also benefit along in the live projects. I mean, it's very common for CAs to have those internships.
Patanjali, we are losing you. Patanjali? Yeah, Patanjali, we are losing you completely.
I think maybe some connection issue at his end.
Yeah, okay. We may just wait for him to join in the interim.
Sure. Else we can move on to the next.
Yeah. I think he was making a very important point about the chartered accountants, the way the projects happens, and I'm sure it's considered to be one, even for that matter, the lawyers as well have a similar kind of courses wherein they have a corporate exposure. Chartered accountants, in fact, the way the programs are designed, they're almost for 3 to 4 years into real-time work environment, and they're really actually managing the show for them. So I think what he was mentioning about was a very important point, that you have something very similar to what they're doing. I'm just waiting for Patanjali to join, and then once he joins in, then we can take it further. Shourya, do you have anything to add on to this? And when you're talking about specifically corporates and campuses, till Patanjali joins us?
All right, he's back.
Oh, he's back. Okay.
Yeah, he's back.
So
I think he was making an important. No problem. Patanjali, you were making a very important point, and I thought I was just elaborating on that. When you were talking about chartered accountants, specifically the way the course is designed, and they are for 3.5 years are very, very closely connected with the industry and doing what a chartered accountant is actually supposed to do post his job. You were just mentioning that, and I thought it was a very important point. And in continuation to what Shourya was saying, that the entire curriculum needs a revamp or should work very closely with to redesign the entire curriculum. Over to you, Patanjali.
Exactly. Thank you. Yeah. So see, every corporate when a new joiner joins, has an elaborate joining curriculum, maybe extending from a
Yeah.
weeks to a few months. Right? So how do we bring it one step ahead and let the we can have 8 semesters? Why can't we have a 7 semester where a student builds the basics? The 8 semester is where the person is able to build that specific skill set. Something like, if you were to give prime examples, you have drills, you have vacuum cleaners, you have the engine which is the same, you just keep on changing the attachments. So your 7 semesters work as those building those engine. The last semester is attachment do you want to have? Is the student interested or is the student shortlisted for sales? You have that attachment, you build that on the engine and make the student ready for that. Similarly, if the person is ready for finance, switch it there, build those and make the student ready for that. So what happens is the student should be able to start running ground on day one instead of getting into corporate then spending. And this is where your hyper personalization comes into play. This is where even your corporate working in tandem with the colleges going to play, helping them specifically cater to their asks.
Uh,
I
Hello.
think we lost him again, probably.
I think we lost him again, right? Yeah.
I'll
Okay.
come.
No problems. Yeah. Patanjali, Shourya specifically, I think we missed out some important points coming from Patanjali before he comes in. Shourya specifically, when in 2020 to 21, we are seeing that you had that spring compressed in terms of the job opportunities, and there were not too many. 2021 just opens up the economy, and we are seeing a lot of resignations from all over. And there's a big war between the companies to retain the talent and hire more. My question to you: do you think that this next war, which is there right now for the talent, will also go into the campuses, or do you think it's a temporary bubble? Yeah, over to you, Shourya.
It has already started on the campus, if you ask me.
It's already okay.
Right.
Okay.
In terms of the resignation, what the Americans term as a great resignation, I mean, with all due regard to them, they always want to brand such events. To me, you have to understand the context. Why suddenly has this happened? Because the pandemic brought about a fundamental change in the way we look at work, in the way we work. And, rather not the way we work, the way we behave. We've been talking about a lot of things. So if you ask me, and not implementing them. So if you ask me, these resignations were waiting to happen. We never realized it because we were in a market that we never bothered to understand the emotions. The pandemic, there have been other instances. For example, 2008, when the Lehman crisis happened, it wasn't a question of life, right? It was a question of livelihood. 2020, when it happened, COVID-19, it was a matter of life. It was a matter of survival. So people were forced to think about family, about their personal needs. What is in it for me? I am spending X number of hours in whichever organization they're working for or institution or wherever they are. What is going to happen next? So this was waiting to happen. So, and let's not be too bothered with it, because I think a couple of months down the line, things would, kind of stabilize. It's not I'm not saying it's a temporary bubble. If we don't mend the ways, this is going to continue in whatever way, in different segments. It is going to happen. So, and see, this has been a wake up call for everybody today. It's not just corporates, it's everywhere, all around. It's been a wake up call. I was reading yesterday, one of the state governments said that we'll open up schools for class 1 to 10th and all that. I mean, you don't have vaccines. Today, they said we are going to do it in a staggered manner. So that is the rate at which decisions will change. The factors contributing to decisions also are going to change very fast. And that is where the entire agility, flexibility, and all those concepts would come in. And they need to be practiced. They are not going to remain bookish terms anymore, or things to be spoken about. People today are observing your behavior. They are not just going to believe you in what you say. They are going to see whether you are actually doing it. Right. Retention, of course, it does happen. I mean, those are, BAU stuff in any organization today. But whether it will be long term, it's only to see. To me, if you ask me personally, I believe it's there for another 6 to 8 months, and then the market itself would stabilize, because everybody would woken up, dressed up, understood the reality, and then, move forward.
Okay. Thank you, Shourya. I think today's article, the Kumar Mangalam Birla, yesterday in one of these industry body associations, made a statement. This is a decade of investment into the manufacturing sector. He specifically mentioned the stimulus that America has, tried for the infrastructure. A much larger spend has already been done in the entire lockdown by the Indian government, and it's much larger plan. And he says almost 1.5 times of investments are coming from the private sector. And he talks about a decade of investment from the manufacturing things. You never know whether this war continues inside the campuses, or it goes much beyond to get the graduates as well, or the war goes there as well. So I think interesting space to look at, to be very honest. I think we had missed Patanjali. And Patanjali, I would again come back to you specifically when you were talking about the synergies between the campus and corporates. You can keep your video on mute, Patanjali, that may occupy less bandwidth. So if you can just throw some lights there.
Perfect. Okay. So maybe coming back and closing. I don't know where did you leave me, but what I was referring to is, and I was giving an example that when you have different kind of very random example, but at least very apt. Something like use a vacuum cleaner. Your vacuum cleaner has the same engine, but your attachments keep on changing. So how do you do that is
Okay.
if you have a student, for a student, out of 8 months, 7 months is where the college helps the student build that engine. And 8th month or the 7th term is where the person builds the engine. The 8th term is where the college works in tandem with the corporate and helps build that specific attachment which the student is inclined, which the corporate wants. If a person is a salesperson, is inclined to being a salesperson, you say, okay, let me help you build this. If a person says, I want to be a marketing or I want to get into ABC, they build that hyper personalized. So what happens is student also learns, has the basic in place, builds that necessary attachment, and starts running on day one of the corporate journey.
Perfect. I think it explains it quite well. And I think you made it very simple when you're saying that, create the train and the engine at this before it starts running. It's only then the fuel which is needed to get into the corporate world, and you get started on the day one because your entire machinery is tested ready. We were just talking about, the fight inside the campuses. We have just few minutes left now before we go into the question and answer session. We're talking about, do you think the war for talent gets into the campuses in 2021? And do you think it will continue for some time? Or you think it's a momentary bubble, Patanjali?
Okay, so again, an answer hybrid, yes and no both. And I heard Shourya, and that is so apt, saying the war is already there. There is no second thought that, and this has been also from some time that we already have those day -1, 0, 1, 2 fight for the top talent, fight to get the right candidate, pre-pandemic, post-pandemic, without pandemic. The war was already there. Resignation, no resignations. So you already have your succession planning where you ensure how do you normalize your pyramid, how do you keep on the funnel running, you get the right talent. So that continues, and irrespective of whatever happens, that will continue. But one very important thing, okay, and just reflecting on the current war of talent outside, what goes up comes down. So right now it's up, it will definitely come down. But what's very essential is when it comes down, have we learned anything from that? And if we've learned anything from that, how do we apply? How do we reinvent ourselves? That will be where the whole trick lies. That will differentiate from a great company to a good company to an average company. Similarly, from a great student to an average student to a normal student.
Perfect. I think Patanjali, very important points. I think before I can tell you almost 85 directors and placement officers from various colleges have reached out to us on WhatsApp because we had a YouTube problem. And I think they were waiting for this topic. The topic had come from them. We may always request you guys to, either the videos and some question answers which may come in later from them, which can be answered, which is where we'll talk. We had a YouTube issue today, which we couldn't fix it within the time, but we started off midway. Right. So if there's question answers, I'll definitely do it. But we had some very important points. Very, very important point, Shourya, which you mentioned that, yeah, during the Lehman crisis, it was livelihood. And in 2020, it was survival. Basis which the dynamisms changed. We have quite a few questions from our audience, which we would like you to, if you can sort of enlighten them or throw, share your views from the industry, that would help.
Sure.
Sunil, over to you, and I'll request if you can just moderate the questions that have come in from this audience, and we can take it further from there.
Hey, thanks, Ranu. I hope I am audible. Okay. It was fantastic, and it has been a fantastic session interacting with Shourya and Patanjali. Okay, and very exciting topic for all the millennials to get into and trying to understand what it is. Okay. There are some interesting questions which has come in the chat box. Okay, I just thought we'll take one of the few of them. We have from Ritika Jaiswal, and she's just wanting to understand what are some of the main advantages freshers have over people with work experience as potential candidates. But Shourya, would you like to cover them?
Sorry, Sunil, could you just repeat the question, please?
What are some of the main advantages freshers have over people with work experience when corporates are looking them as a potential candidates? This question has come from Ritika.
See, corporates, I wouldn't like to compare the two, because you look at freshers for a different purpose. You look at people with experience for a different purpose. So you need to understand what the corporate is looking at. It's not that, for an experience role, I would pick up somebody from the campus, unless the person has had a previous work experience before doing, say before doing an MBA. So the skill sets are completely different. The job requirements are different. So it is not, freshers versus experienced people. Both have their respective qualities and niches. So that's my take on it.
Certainly, I think very well said, Shourya. Patanjali, you would like to share your view on this particular thing?
Yeah, I just add one thing, or one which I've heard in several of the spiritual discourses. A youngster has eyes, or rather, a youngster has wings. An experienced person has eyes. So a young can fly in a speed which an experienced cannot fly. But an experienced person can see as much which a youngster can't see. So what needs to happen is a person with an wings needs to share the same, or the person who has eyes has to share that with the person who has wings. And then the person, what happens is you run for a longer journey.
Very well said, Patanjali. I think people who are having experience need to share the vision, and we have talent with the millennials who are willing to give commitment in terms of the work and execute and take things faster. Okay, very well said. Okay, so it's going to be the combination and the teamwork between the experience as well as the freshers. We have. I'm just taking the next question. Shourya, you had been mentioning about keeping people engaged and how we can take them within this process. Okay, so one question which has come from Sneha Vinash is that what exceptions can be done for engaging people? Okay, would you like to throw some light on this from your experience, Shourya?
There can't be any exceptions. The entire engagement model has to change, and as I had said, it has to evolve into both parties understanding what is best for each other. It has to be, so if I can say, it has to be like a marriage. It can't be, it has to be a long-term process. It can't be just a one-off process. And there are no exceptions to engagement. Engagement is a very, very serious matter, be it between people or between the organization and the campus. And that entire model has to be thought through between the respective corporate and the respective campus, and debated what is best in it for both. So there is no one prescription which can be offered and said that this is what can be practiced. So again, it has to be individualized, it has to be personalized depending on the needs, requirements, and the future goals of both the institutions.
Okay, sure. Patanjali would like to throw some light on this particular point which has come. How to keep people engaging?
Yes. So see, I completely agree. There's no exception to engagement. Okay. However, the intensity is what can be changed. You can change at what stage the person is, the seniority, juniority of the person. So depending on those various parameters, and that is where the personalization which Shourya mentioned. So your personalization is which will help you tweak the intensity of engagement, but you cannot make it a zero engagement. But you keep on shifting basis the need, basis the demand, basis the requirement.
Yes, very true, Patanjali. And I also seen that corporates have been keeping the hackathon exercise, etc., in terms of getting the engineers to participate, okay, or doing some kind of a project to the commerce or the chartered accountant or the MBA student, so that they can deliver and keep them engaged and come out of and check their see what kind of talent they have, so that appropriately they can be placed in the corporate. Yes, these are some of the methods one definitely can keep them engaged and do it for them. We move to the next question from Himanshu Purohit. Can TA method, talent acquisition method, help in curbing infant iteration of campus hiring to some extent? Okay. Patanjali would like to address this.
See, again, I go back to why would a person in campus attract? So is it because the person didn't like the job? Is it person didn't understand the job? Is it person found a better option outside? So primarily, when a person gets a job through campus, always a first job is always very near to your heart. When you don't get that warmth is when you start looking out. When you don't get that care is when you start feeling that, okay, this might be better for me. So definitely engaging at the start, right talent acquisition can to much extent curb this, to much extent reduce this, so that that person is engaged, you are able to get the right person, get the right fit, and then the person feels happy after joining.
Okay. Thanks. We move to the next question. It has come from Karthik Kashyap. Okay. He says that Karthik says since mere 2 months or 3 months kind of summer internship does not really helps the organization to screen or engage with a potential talent. So is there a different view which the corporate are having in terms of the summer internship become a glitch or has lost its purpose? Patanjali would like to throw some light. Shourya had already answered this in the group. Maybe the crowd would like to hear from you, Patanjali.
Sure. See, the 2 months corporate still is, and then as I see, 2 months is sufficient time where the person is constantly engaged. The projects that generally corporate give to the students is a very high intensity project. So what happens is 2 months is enough for the corporate to judge the student. After all, let me give a counter example. What is an alternate way to this? We interview, we spend those 30 minutes, 1 hour, and we select a person. And vis-a-vis, you have a 2 months to judge a person, which is better. So currently, instead of having those 30-minute, 1 hour discussion, and better option is let that be extended to 2 months. Your calculation or your intention is much better in that scenario.
Definitely. I think 30 minutes interaction instead of having a 30 minutes interaction, a longer 30 days, 60 days kind of interaction, one gets to know better. And we have seen that companies are retaining those talents who have worked with them in some sort of an engagement or some sort of an internship. Shourya, would you like to throw some light on this particular thing? I think you already answered, but maybe other crowd would like to hear from you, Shourya.
No, so I said, see, the intern, I'm not saying that internship should not be there. I'm saying while the internship is there, we have to look at other models as well. Right. That's what my submission is, that we need to look at the entire curriculum in such a way that the engagement between the corporate and the campus is, more productive for both.
Very true. Okay. I move on to this next question, which is apparently the last questions, and we are very much within the time. Okay. The last question is coming from Karthikeyan. What are the skills and qualities are corporate expecting from freshers nowadays? Okay. Shourya, maybe you can cover this part.
Skills and expectations. Well, the first thing if I were to go to campus today or to go to B school, I would look at the attitude of the person. See, even today, we don't want people to say, no, I will not do this. So do you have a positive mindset? Do you have a can-do attitude? Are you a fit in terms of the values and the culture? And when I say values of different organizations vary. And one point in the previous question when Patanjali was answering, he mentioned about warmth in engaging. That's a very, very important aspect, which somewhere we miss out in the day-to-day work. Along with warmth is another point which I would like to stress is, do we as corporates trust the hires, be it campus or whatever? Somewhere that quality also needs to be looked into. Right. So today's hirings will be based on trust. It will be based on the attitude. It will be based on the ability to not only deal with ambiguity, to manage ambiguity, and yet chalk out the way forward, the path for the future. That is something which I believe organizations would look at.
Very, very, very true, Shourya. Patanjali, would you like to share your views on this? What are the skills corporate are expecting from freshers these days? Is there a change from something which we are expecting from millennials? What is that you would like to throw light on?
Yeah. I mean, foremost, definitely which Shourya mentioned is ability to manage ambiguity. And that's the world also, right? VUCA world is what we say, keeps on changing. So how is the person able to manage the ambiguity? Second, very important thing is 95% of the jobs are in the non-technical space. I mean, if an engineer, the engineer will not get into R&D. engineer will get into allied works. Similarly, an MBA will get into additional work. So, how is the person able to solve skill sets? How is the person able to solve problems? So, his problem solving ability, thinking ability, that continues to be, which was earlier also, and that continues to be as one of the basic pillars. Is the person able to think strategically? Is the person able to zoom in and zoom out? So that will continue, and that continues to be. So therefore, if you see, many of the companies, many of the corporates have switched their extensive campus hiring to just limited set of questions, limited set of interviews. What are they testing there? One, is the person able to think correctly? Second, is the person able to speak correctly? Speak does not mean necessarily language. Able to communicate, understand and communicate. Able to express his or her thoughts, able to understand what the person wants. If the person is able to just cover these 2-3 things, I mean, whatever job you are in, whatever role that you are aiming in, you will be able to crack it. It will be a piece of cake.
Very true, Patanjali. I think this is very important aspect. I think freshers will be able to get a guidance from the veterans from the corporates, and will be able to improvise on how they are taking things further in the upcoming sessions. Okay, I think today's article also, today's Economic Times also mentioned that the pre-placement offers have already started ringing bells in the institutes, and corporates are fighting for the day one slot. Okay, which I think Shourya did mention, and you also mentioned that it is important to have transparency among the corporates. Okay, in order to.
So Sunil, I have a point. When we said the war for talent in campus, I remember this was sometime in 99 or 2000. And IIM Indore had just been established at that time. And the company I used to work with, we had got a slot at 2 a.m. in the night.
Wow.
Okay. So the war for talent has always been there. You know, imagine, you know, as a corporate, you have to go and keep awake and you get a 2-hour slot. That's it. So from 2 a.m. to 4 a.m., you better evaluate the people because you wanted them. You know, they have multiple offers. So that's the way it is.
Very true, very true, very true. I think corporates need to bend a bit, okay, and get the best talent out. Whether that is like burning a midnight oil, and which is true by going at 2 a.m. Okay. Ranu?
Yeah, I think Shourya and Patanjali, last Sunday in the morning, I think at around 7 o'clock, I was in a morning walk with placement director of a Cat A college. And the college has close to 480 students. And he was saying the day one hasn't come and almost 85% are placed. And his regular corporates who've been reaching out to them, including I'm talking about the big four, one of the big fours as well. And they were trying to say that, you know, we've only received 4 applications, 5 applications, and he was finding it very difficult to manage them this time. He was saying that almost everybody is placed. I can't help it. Only around 80 students are left out of a batch of 480. So he was completely stressed out in terms of how do we manage corporates this time. The challenge was very different. So this is one thing. A quick, very important session. One, I think a lot of college guys missed out. In fact, the training and placement officers and the directors missed out the session.
Ranu, you are on mute.
Yeah. Right. So what I'm trying to tell you is that while Patanjali, when you mentioned specifically that crits are the bread earners, no more the bread earners, and are expecting a work-life balance, my take to the students, it is not about you guys being the bread earners and you're talking about the work-life balance. What corporates are looking at is about your right attitude and the willingness to work and somebody who takes up ownerships. You're just starting or your careers, and I keep coming across the campus students coming to me also or for other companies and talking, is it a 5-day working or a 6-day working? For me, when I started off, and one of the very senior faculties who was a very big name in the industry also said, 7 दिन काम करने में प्रॉब्लम है क्या? भगवान करे तेरे पास 10 दिन होता और तू काम कर पाता था. That was the point that he made, and that is the attitude that they were looking out for. He used to always say, and I still remember, be open to taking up assignments the way it comes in, rather than going by the rule book that this is what my JD is and this is what I'm cut out for. Fortunately, I was one of the youngest to reach up to the CEO level in my batch, and I think that is one thing that I remembered. Whatever came my way, I took it up in a stride. Now, corporates look at what Patanjali and Shourya mentioned. Corporates are clearly looking at your openness and flexibility to take up larger assignments over a period of time. Very important point for the training and placement officers and directors of the colleges is to bring in transparency from the colleges. Just because organization A came into the organization, or you're trying to reflect that this organization came into the organization, is not what is important. Engage with organizations and try to bring in a lot of live projects. Almost all the speakers have said this, and I very strongly agree that it is not the academics alone that I'm looking out for. Academics is about fundamentals, but I'm also looking at life projects, more leadership engagements, your kids coming up with innovative ideas during their engagements, which are there, is very, very critical. And when you're discussing in that 30 minutes interview, which we spoke about, if your kids have really spent that 2 years or 3 years of your time into corporates, this life projects automatically brings in the comfort. Very important point that both Shourya and Patanjali made was the corporates are ready for early engagements, and this engagement point is common between the two. Your students are looking at engagement with your corporate world, and so are the corporates trying to do it, bring in. It's like getting a bride inside the family, and the family is equally wanting them to get comforted, the girl comforted, as much as the girl wanting to do it. It's something on the same lines. I request all students to take up their life projects fairly seriously and get involved into the project. I think a lot of projects are available courtesy Google. You have a lot of projects which you can do a cut, copy, paste. But even if you're doing that, just get involved and do it properly so that you understand what are we talking about. Remember, corporates always want to make it more engaging. We will try to come up with similar topics in the future as we've been doing this. More specifically on this topic, wherein I can see a lot of requests coming into my WhatsApp as we talk continuously from almost a lot of training and placement offices we are connected with. And we'll try to cover either the same topic. And I'll also request my speakers, in case there are any question and answers beyond the discussion today, we will reach out to you for answers. Keep watching us, keep looking, keep tracking our guest lectures as well. And we'll guarantee you to come up with more topics which are going to enlighten you continuously. Thanks for being with us. Thanks, Shourya. Thanks, Patanjali, for giving your time from your busy schedule. Patanjali, I think last week you had some important schedule and you still managed to give us a slot in this week. Thanks for you. And thanks, Shourya, for accommodating us and giving your time and valuable inputs within the forum. Thanks, Sunil, and thanks, Vicky, as always, for managing the entire event and keeping it seamless. And thanks to the audience as well for giving your time to listen to us and keep us encouraging with these topics on a continuous basis. Keep meeting regularly, and definitely Shourya and Patanjali will keep engaging from further aspects as well with you guys. Right? All the best, and have a good weekend.
Pleasure.
Thanks, Patanjali. Thanks,
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thanks, Vicky. Thanks, Rano.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Have a good
Bye.
weekend.
Bye.
Have a great weekend.